I think the real star of the past decade is true crime, with podcasting finally becoming huge and Netflix documentaries being bingeable at the click of a button. There's a whole new audience for the mysterious and the morbid. Whether it's Making of a Murderer or Serial or even the more recent Tiger King, there is all sorts of content catering to people who want to try their hand at solving a mystery. Granted, a lot of media made for this purpose is put together extremely well and sort of gently persuades the audience into drawing their own conclusions. But for every mega hit true crime docu-series, there are 100 mysterious crimes that go untelevised. The internet is full of communities that analyze and puzzle over these very unexplainable instances. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be counting down the top 5 scary people who disappeared. Some of these folks were never found, and some were discovered later on. If you're particularly interested in this kind of stuff, check out the Charlie Project if you have time. It's an online database that profiles all sorts of cold cases featuring missing people. Before we get started on this list, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more unknown endings. Outrageous, let's get started. Starting us off at number 5, we've got Robert Bobby Dunbar. Over 100 years ago, police investigators were a little less sophisticated. DNA tests didn't exist, and a lot of crimes were solved without a whole lot of proof. What's interesting about the Bobby Dunbar case is that modern forensic techniques were used almost a century after the fact to unveil some new and shocking information. Back in 1912, little Bobby wandered off from his family and was never seen again. There are many theories as to what fate might have befallen the little lad. Some believe he fell from a railroad trestle into some water and drowned. Others seem to think that he was abducted by a strange man sighted in the area around that time. It's likely that we'll never know for sure. Now, back in the day, something very odd happened. Authorities found a little boy accompanying an older gentleman, and they thought they had found Bobby Dunbar. They arrested a handyman in Mississippi who was with a child matching Bobby's description. The man stated that the boy was a travel companion given to him by his servant Julia. This story didn't convince the police, and he was brought in on kidnapping. Even after he was arrested, the man maintained his innocence, which actually makes a lot of sense. See, this kid had no problem stepping into Bobby's life. He took his name and his family and lived a relatively normal childhood from there on out. Even as an adult, he claimed that he was indeed Bobby Dunbar and even recounted memories from the kidnapping. However, this was disproven many years later. One of the new Bobby's grandchildren decided to look into the situation and got some DNA testing done in the early 2000s. It was announced that the tests proved that the child found with the handyman so many years ago was not Bobby Dunbar. So nobody really knows what happened to the original Bobby, nor does anyone know the true identity of the boy who took its place. Holy smokes. Coming in at number 4, we got Skylar Neese. A little more modern and very tragic, the tale of Skylar Neese is every parent's nightmare. Skylar was an upstanding student, worked a part-time job, and had aspirations to become a lawyer. Her disappearance didn't line up with any of this. Skylar disappeared from her home in West Virginia in July of 2012. The surveillance system at the apartment complex her family lived in captured her sneaking out through her bedroom window. She then hopped into a car with 2 of her friends. Nobody saw Skylar again until 6 months later in January. Her remains were found by the side of the road. During the time in between, authorities assumed that she had run away and as such didn't activate an Amber Alert. Her family was desperate to get her home, convinced that she would never run away, and was searching on their own. They even enlisted the very same friends she drove off with to hand out missing person flyers. The thing is, before her death, Skylar had recently gotten into an argument with these 2 very same friends and was reluctant to go with them. Eventually, they did convince her to come along and smoke with them like they usually would. Once they made it to their regular spot just across the state border, Skylar's friends claimed they forgot their lighter. Skylar offered to go get hers from the car, and as soon as she turned around, they pounced on her. Using kitchen knives they had hidden on them, the 2 friends stabbed Skylar over 50 times until she died. They'd attempted to bury her body using a shovel they brought, but found the ground too rocky and opted to cover her body with sticks and stones instead. After cleaning up and ditching their bloody clothes, the 2 friends headed home. Their motive for the crime? They didn't want to be friends with Skylar anymore. I think there are definitely better ways of going about that. They did eventually get caught though, and now both of them are in prison. Coming in at number 3, we have Brandon Lawson. This case is particularly well documented online, with all sorts of people trying their hand at deciphering the last known phone call Brandon made. Brandon Lawson was a young man with substance abuse problems. He worked long hours at a hard job and had a felony warrant out on him. However, he also had a loving fiance and 3 children, with a 4th from a previous partner. Lots of conflicting emotions here for sure. One night after a long shift, Brandon came home and got into an argument with his fiance. After not coming home the night before, she was worried discovered that he had relapsed and started doing meth again. This sent Brandon into a panic and he ran off into the night. He hopped into his car, claiming that he was going to stay at his dad's, a 3-mile drive from home. During his ride, he ran out of gas and parked his truck on the side of the road and called his brother asking for help. By the time his brother made it to the location, Brandon was gone, the truck was abandoned, and the police were on site. Somebody had seen the haphazardly parked vehicle and called it in. Nobody could find any signs of struggle near the vehicle, so they were confused as to where he went. Later on, it was discovered that Brandon had called 911 and claimed that he was being chased and feared for his life. Some say it was meth-induced paranoia, others think he was actually being pursued. That was the last contact Brandon had with anyone, and he hasn't been seen since. Many major investigations and searches were done, but none of them turned up anything. There are a few different theories as to what happened to Brandon. Some say he was murdered. He might have hit someone while driving and had them chase him down. If you listen to his final 911 call, there is what sounds like a second voice that comes through. Another theory is that he ran away and faked his death. He did have a felony warrant after all, and was supposedly doing drugs at the time. Speaking of drugs, the third theory was that he was paranoid and having a psychotic break, symptoms regularly associated with meth use. None of these theories have enough proof to come to a guaranteed conclusion though, and neither Brandon nor his remains have ever been found. Coming in at number 2, we've got the Soldering Children. 5 children mysteriously disappeared on the same night, all following some very strange happenings. On Christmas Eve, the 10 Soldering Children were basking in the glow of their new toys. 5 of them decided they wanted to stay up and play with them, and their parents gave this request the nod. Mom and Dad went to bed, and soon after, some weirdness began. The phone rang, and the voice on the other end asked the mother for a person she had never heard of. When she said she didn't know what they were talking about, they laughed and hung up. She was awakened again later by a sound on the roof. Her husband gathered the 5 children who hadn't stayed up, and it was then they realized that all the lights were on, all the shades were drawn, and all the doors were unlocked. When everyone got outside, they saw that the house was on fire. The dad rushed to get the other children from their rooms on the 2nd floor, but his ladder had mysteriously disappeared. Officials say that the 5 kids died in the fire, but the parents never stopped believing that they made it out somehow. At some point, a picture was mailed to them that purportedly portrayed one of their sons, now as a full-grown adult. No other evidence has surfaced. And finally, at number 1, we've got Evelyn Hartley. This one seems like something out of a horror movie. A teenage babysitter is kidnapped and pools of her blood are found nearby. Yikes. Sometimes reality is indeed scarier than fiction. Evelyn Hartley was hired to babysit a 20-month-old baby while the parents were out at the town's famous homecoming game. Most of the town was going, but Evelyn had to study, so she decided she would read while the baby slept. Her parents told her to call at 8:30 to check in, but she never did. Evelyn's father got worried and went over to the house to check up on her. He found the house completely locked up, save for a basement window, and no Evelyn. There were pry marks on some of the windows, and a stepladder was moved, pointing to repeated attempts to enter the home. Inside, there were signs of a struggle and sneaker marks on the floor. After a desperate search, plenty of evidence was found, but Evelyn never was. 2 days later, a local man came forward and said he might have seen something. On his way to the homecoming game, he sighted a car speeding westward with 2 men and a girl inside. At the time, he just assumed they were heading to the game as well and didn't think much of it as Evelyn's disappearance was undiscovered at the time. Lots more evidence was found in the coming days, like bloody garments and sneaker prints outside of town, but nothing conclusive. Truly a horror movie come to life. So what'd you think of the list? You gonna look both ways before leaving the house now? How many of these had you already heard of? Is there a disappearing person that haunts you to this day? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more jazzy ones from the top 5 scary siren head sightings. Dark Rose 15 says, honestly, if that thing was real, I would not want to run into it. I'd say most people share that opinion. Although, Midnight Mare says, I want to hug Siren Head. I think you and Dark Rose 15 should have a spirited argument about Siren Head pros and cons. Dirt Bikes for Life says Siren Head would dominate the NBA. 2021 first draft pick. The lad can dunk like no other. Needs a little work on his mid-range shot, but otherwise a total powerhouse. Charlotte Bruce says, I am so scared, sarcasm BTW. I am really glad you cleared that up. I don't know what I would have believed had you not put the sarcasm tag on. And Aerial Guidance says, Siren Head was my pet, but he got out. I haven't seen him until now. How'd he get across the world so fast? The lad has a wicked long stride. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I paint my way into a corner in a room with bad ventilation, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more vanishing individuals. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.